Hello everyone, this is Ajit here from Interview Network, and today we are going to discuss about the kind of issues that we face in Cisco SD-WAN and how to resolve those issues. As we already know that we have been working in on traditional boxes, traditional WAN boxes, and we know the what kind of issues that we face. But in the same way, while troubleshooting the issues of SD-WAN, we have the same kind of issues. We just need to change the approach. We just need to figure out the command difference that we have that will help to restore the same kind of issues that we face in traditional boxes. But here we are focusing more on SD-WAN. So before we proceed with what kind of issues that we face in SD-WAN and how to troubleshoot those issues, first it is very important for the SD-WAN to understand the basic check that you should be covering before you proceed to you resolve the issue. And the basic checks that we should be checking before you move to your actual issues are: number one, you need to cross verify whether the valid certificate has been installed or not. Number two, you need to check on the system configuration whether the system IP, site ID, organization name, and the vBond address are correctly configured or not. Number three, you need to cross verify that VPN zero transport interface that is configured with the tunnel option and IP address is not. Last and not the least, you need to cross-verify the system clock that is configured correctly on the vEdge and those that match with the other device and controllers. So once you are done with these basic checks, then only you should move to the next step, because most of the issues that normally occur in SD-WAN boxes are lies on these basic checks. So if there's any issue in these basic, then you will be facing the problem on your SD-WAN boxes. Okay, so now once you are done with your basic check and you know that there's no issue on in this aspect, so then you need to move to your actual issues. But before you move to actual issues, let me show you one more aspect that will help you to understand to bifurcate your issues where your actual issues lies. So as you can see in this diagram, there are two components of the SD-WAN structure. One is, as you can see here, one part is underlay, which are part of all your edge devices are part of underlay, where they form the IPsec tunnel with each other. And on top of underlay, we have the overlay, where all the virtual soft devices that you have, like vsmart, vbond, and vmanage, all are part of overlay. Now, the kind of issues that might you be facing, that there might be a communication issue between underlay and overlay. So when I say communication issue between underlay and overlay, could be the issue with your edge devices and the vSmart. For example, as you can see here, site 1 has a edge device and site 10 has a edge device. So there might be an issue with not able to communicate this edge device to vSmart, or there might issue with this box is not able to communicate to vSmart, or there might be an issue that this edge device is not able to communicate with the this edge devices. Okay, so you need to figure out where the issue lies. Once you understand where your issue lies, then only you should be focusing on the problem, because each aspect and each attributes has a different role in resolving the issues. Okay, so if there's an issue between this edge device and this vSmart, then you need to focus on a Dtls tunnel and those stuff. But if there's an issue between underlay itself only, then for example, communication issue between this edge device and this edge device can be because of any configuration issue on the underlay, and might be issue with the Dtls communication that is happens via vSmart. So first we should be focusing more on where the issue lies, and then we should move on to troubleshoot those issues. Okay, so let's start the kind of problem that we face in SD-WAN boxes and what all steps that we should be taking care to restore the services. So number one question that normally occurs here are: how to check that a valid certificate is installed on the vEdge router or not. A valid certificate must be installed on the vEdge router. To view the status of the router certificate in vmanage NMS, select the configuration, go to certificate screen and select the vEdge list tab. In the table, the validate column should be green to indicate that the certificate is valid, and the state column should also show a green icon. So why vmanage? You can log into vmanage and you follow this instruction where you can see whether if there's a green box, you can see the green tick there that shows that the certificate is valid. And if you talk about the from the CLI, how you can see on the CLI, you can run the command show control local properties. It will give you the output like this, and here at the last you can see certificate status is showing installed. So with this you can be able to understand whether this specific edge box has any certificate issue or not. The certificate plays a very important role in SD-WAN boxes. If there's any issue with the certificate, then that specific fabric will not work. Okay, so let's move to question number 2. What are the reason for certificate issues? Reason for certificate issues are device are not added, certificate revoked, certificate verification failure. So because of any of these reasons, you might face that there's an issue with the certificate, and once you face this issue, then you have to restore this issue. So how to do that I will be showing later part of this PPT. So let's move to next question. So what are Dtls connection failure reason? So as you must be knowing that edge between edge devices and the vSmart boxes, there's a Dtls connection that established, and if there's any issue with this communication, then the routing will not happen, or there will be a communication problem between the edge devices and the vSmart boxes. Now what are the reason for those things? Number one reason is next hop not reachable. Number two reason, default gateway is not installed in routing table. And number three, DTLS port not open in the controller. So these are three important aspects which you should be taking care when you figure out that there's a DTLS connection failure when you run the command, okay, on the edge boxes. Question number 4, how to resolve the DTLS connection failure? Number one, to identify is check, you need to do the basic ping to a default gateway. Number two, ping the vBond if ICMP is allowed on the vBond. And number three, trace route to vBond DNS address. So with these basic steps, you'll be able to figure out that where the problem is, why the connection is dropping, at which hop it is dropping, and accordingly, you'll be able to restore the services. Then what is the command to check the DTLS connection failure? The command to check DTLS connection failure is show control connection history. When you run this command show control connection history, uh, at, at the end of that command there's a column called state, and under state you will see the status, or you can say that under error you will see the status or what kind of error you're getting. For example, as you can see here under state, you can see it says dcon fail, okay, as I have highlighted. So you can see here it's saying that your DTLS connection is failing. Okay, now once it's failing, what should be doing, that you need to cross verify the configuration, because normally with edge devices and with your vSmart there's a communication gap, because there's a DTLS tunnel that form between your edge device and the vSmart boxes or the vBond boxes or any of the under overlay boxes. So you need to cross verify is communication, there should be no any communication failure. So you need to ping those boxes of the overlay, should trace route to those boxes if ICMP is allowed. Try to ping the default gateway. If that is happening, then check whether the next hop is reachable from on your edge devices or not, whether the default gateway is installed on the routing table or not. So once everything is fine, you need to cross verify whether the DTLS port is open on the firewall or not, or on the controller or not. So once you are done with that, then you'll be able to restore those services. Number 6, what are the reason for TLock disabled? Reason for TLock disabled are clearing of control connections, changing the color on TLock 3, changing system IP, changing in any of the config mentioned in the system block or in the tunnel properties. So if you do any kind of you know any changes in your co- configuration, then you might face these kind of issues, because your TLock, it says about the next hop. So transport locator, that's a full form. So if your next it is disabled, then that means some configuration has been done. Either you have cleared your control connection, or you have changed the color on the TLock, or you have changed system IP. So that means there must there's some configuration changes has been done that causes these issues. Okay. So what is a command to check the TLock status? Use command show control local properties. Once you run this command, you'll be able to check the status. So what are the conditions where the controller connection flaps? This is very important question and very common issues that normally happens in SD-WAN boxes. So there are few transit condition where control connection flap, like number one, system IP change on the vEdge, or the tear down message to vBond. That means control connection to vBond is transient. So these are the very common reason where you will see the control connection keep on flapping. So what does the error code? These are the error code mean on TLock. Well, it indicates that we are missing the serial number. Each error code has belongs to separate box. So the number one error code that belongs to vBond orchestrator. Number two error code belongs to your vEdge routers and vsmart controllers. And number three error code belongs to your, there's a serial mismatch between vsmart controller. So as per the error code, you will figure out that where the issue lies, and accordingly you need to work on that. Now how to work on that? Once you figure out there's a mismatch in the error message, you log into vmanage, then you select the device which has an issue, and then you click on the send to controller. If you have there's a missing, but if there's a mismatch, they need to cross verify with the smart account the customer has to cross verify that whether the H device, the serial number that is given to you is correctly or not. Okay. Then how to resolve the error code, all this as mentioned here. So whenever you get this kind of error message, make sure you check the serial number on the vmanage screen and update. Once update, please send it all controller will log into vmanage configuration certificate screen. In the vH list tab, select the device whose serial number is missing and click on send to controller, as I told previously. So once you follow this instruction, you'll be able to send the correct serial number to that relevant box. And once you've done that, and once you click on send to controller, controller will cross verify, and then your issue will get resolved. The next question is how to downgrade the image of vEdge devices. That is very common issues that normally we do in traditional boxes. Now, how to do the same thing on the vEdge boxes? First, you need to check the latest version of image via show version command. Once you're done with that, you need to check the old version also in the box or not by request software install question mark, or there's another command called show software. Once you run this command, you'll be able to see how many what all version image that you have on your vEdge boxes. So the first command show version will tell you the latest image on your boxes, and show software or request software install question mark will tell you all kind of images that has been installed on your edge boxes. So once you decide version which you want to install, run the command request software remove 20.3.2. For example, here I'm trying to remove this version, and once you run this command, it will take some time to remove. Once you are done with that, you run the command request software install and the image number which you want to install now. Once you run this command, it will take another some time to install this. Once you are done with that, you need to activate this. Okay, so once you run the command on the point 4 request software install, it will reload the switch or reload the device. And once you come up, once you cross verify, you run the request software activate, and once it will run the request software activate and then the image name, it will activate that image, and it will again reload, and it will come with the new image. Okay, Now once it will come with the new image, it is very important that you keep that image as a default image. Okay, and then we run the last command, which is request software set default and then the image name. So once you run the command 7, after that the new image that you have downgraded will be set as a default image. Okay, so these are some basic commands that you should be running to downgrade your image on the vEdge devices. Now next question is how to upgrade your vEdge image from CLI. As number one step, check the show software command you have the required iOS image on the device or not. Then you need to verify the image that normally we do in the traditional WAN boxes or traditional devices. Verify the MD5 image and structure with the command request software verify image name. Once you verified the image, then you need to install the software onto the vEdge with the CLI on the command as request software install and the image name, and then reboot. Once installed, just reboot the device and you will see the device is updated. Once you've done that, once upgrade is done, set the image with the default with the command request software set default image name. That's all you need to do to upgrade any edge device from the CLI. Okay, so next question is how to troubleshoot connection flapping issues. Well, in a highly unstable network where network connections are flapping continuously, you might see these two error messages. Let me highlight this here. Number one is this, and number two is this. If you see with these two error messages, which you normally you can see under local error here, as I can show you. Okay, so when you see these two error messages, that means there's an issue with the board ID failed. So what you if that's the problem, or that kind of error message that you can see here, that means it will not allow the to bring the control connection. And what you need to do, you need to reset the board ID. So that's the way that you need to because of that your connection keep on flapping. Okay, so most of the issues in SD-WAN boxes, that's what happened, that under local error you will figure out the code, and on the basis of code you will be able to understand the problem, and on the basis of once you understand the problem, then you'll be able to know the reason and how to troubleshoot those issues. Okay, so this connection flapping, normally that means that the edge box is not able to establish the connectivity with the vBond or the vSmart. Okay, and it will give this error message, and just you need to reset the board ID. How to check if there is a routing issue? Well, control connection might not come up if there are routing issues in the network. So ensure to have a valid route in the routing table with the right next hop or the TLock IP. The reason could be that more specific route to vBond in routing table, which point to the next hop or the TLock, which is not used in order to establish control connection. That means the route vBond already have the more specific routes that is pointing to the next hop, and the next hop IP that is used by you is not what it should be. So that could be one of the reason for routing issue. And another is the TLock IP is leaked between the upstream service. So these are two more important reasons why you face the routing issue, and there's very uh, important command that normally helps you to figure out the problem. So as you can see here, but I will suggest you the best command that normally happens to use the show control connections or show control connection history. This is one of the most and the best command of SD-WAN that will give you what exactly happening in the box under the error code, and you will figure out what the problem is and where you have to focus to restore the services. Now, normally in terms of routing issue, what we can do, we can use these command to verify the output with the help of these output like show IP route sweep in 0, show IP route sweep in 0, then the prefix on the mask, we ping the vBond IP, look for distance value and what protocol for the IP prefix. So if these are things, command that will help you to figure out where the routing issue is, and if there's a routing issue, then normally there will be no connection between the edge devices, or there will be a continuous flapping connection on the edge devices. So these are the reason when you figure out there's a routing issue. So number one step, as I suggest, we use this command that will help you to, under error code, you will see what kind of issue you're facing. And once you figure out that there is a routing issue, then you should be figure out where the problem might be. It might be with the vBond already have the more specific routes, or the TLock IP that you have given is already leaked. So these are the things when you face this routing issue, and that way you can restore the services. So what is the command to check the chassis number and the certificate serial number? On this tutorial, you'll be giving a very important command, because these are the commands which you should be handy with you, that will help you to restore many of the SD-WAN issues. Okay, so that's when I have given you some important command that you should make sure that keep yourself handy with that, and that will help you to understand and figure out the problem. So as I said, the first command question is, what is the command to check chassis number and certificate serial number? So you can use the command show control local properties, that will also give you. And if you want to make it more filter, you can use include command chassis number and serial number. Number two, what is the command to check the vBond serial number? Command is show orchestrator valid vEdge. Then what is the command to check the status of the WAN interface on vEdge? Show control local properties WAN interface list. That is very important command whenever you will troubleshoot any edge uh, devices WAN related any kind of issues. Next question is command to check the number of BFD packets sent and received within particular data plane tunnel. The command is show tunnel statistics BFD. Then what is the port number that needs to be open on firewall for vEdge to vEdge data plane? It is UDP 12346 to 13156. This question is, which port needs to be open on firewall for control connection from vEdge to controller? Again, it's UDP 12346 to 13156 and TCP 23456 to 24156. The reason why this I have mentioned here, because sometimes when you do all kind of troubleshoot and still you're not able to uh, figure out the problem, then normally the problem lies in the port opening. So make sure for any kind of communication that happen between edge device to the controller, or between edge devices, that there's specific port that needs to be open on the firewall. So make sure these are the ports that should be open on the firewall, and what kind of protocol it is, whether it's UDP or TCP. Okay, that normally helps you to restore the services. Question number 21. How to troubleshoot the Wi-Fi client cannot locate the SSID advertised by the vEdge 100WM router. So SD-WAN come with another router which has the capability of wireless. So if wireless users are not able to see the SSID, how to restore the services? So once you locate the vEdge 100WM on your vmanage, select the Wi-Fi, and on the left hand side check SSID, and just check is any value of this or not. If you figure out this value, that means there is a configuration issue. Okay, so that means if that is mean that WLAN or WAP interface for this SSID we misconfigured. Okay, so it is very important that it should not reflect this value. If it is the value, that means there's a misconfiguration issue. So you need to check the configuration and need to work on that. You can also use on the CLI show running command to check the configuration. Okay, number one reason. Number two reason could be the static channels that you have given. So static channel is one where you explicitly configure the radio channel rather than allowing the router to automatically select the best radio channel. So instead of router to select the best uh, channel for the SSID, you have configured the static channel, and that could be one of the reason why the SSID is not reflecting to the all the wireless users. So you need to work on these two areas to restore the services. Then how to troubleshoot for the issue where the client is not able to connect to the SSID advertised by the vEdge 100WM. Now here, client is not able to connect to the SSID. So number one reason could be, if you configure radius password locally on the vEdge WM router, ensure that the Wi-Fi client password matches the SSID password. Number two, if you're using the Redis server, ensure that the Redis server is reachable, and the Wi-Fi client username and password match the Redis configuration. Okay, so next question is how to prefer the traffic from one vEdge of hub router. Now, in traditional network, as we already know that if each site has a two router, one will act as a primary router and another will act as a secondary router. So when primary will goes down, secondary will act as a primary router. But in SD-WAN fabric, none of the box will work like this. They by default their behavior is they work on the concept called equal traffic path. That means each router will carry the equal traffic. Now, if you have a requirement where you want to make one of the routers a preferred router who will carry the traffic, then you can do that. And the question says in the hub side. Now, hub side, that means uh, hub and spoke concept that we have in SD-WAN. It says that about hub talk about the data center devices and spoke talk about the all the branch sites. So for example, in SD-WAN, what happened that if I explain to you in this way, I have a data center, with the two device of data center, okay, and there are few sides of the spokes, okay. Now I want all my, by default, what will happen that each router will be active and they will carry the traffic. Both will be activated at the same time. That's by default behavior. Now you want to prefer, for example, this is router 1 and this is router 2. Now you want to router 2 to prefer for all the spoke sides. So router 2 will be active and it will respond if any spoke wants to communicate to this hub data center. What you can do, because by default what happened that as it's work on the equal concept, but there's a concept, there's a term and the command that is called the preference. So when we what we can do, we can put a lower preference value, for example 100 on router 1 and higher preference value on router 2 like as a 200. So when we do that, what happens that router 2 will be preferred as compared to router 1 and all traffic will be carried first by the router 2 compared to router 1. Now how this will work here, it all depends like how you have, because if we in normal traditional network we have the route map, we have the access list. In the same way here in SD-WAN, what we are going to do now, we are going to create a centralized policy. Now under centralized policy for each router, we are going to tell them that your preference value will be, for example, router 1 has 100, router 2 will be 200. Then I will tell on the policy that when router 1 will be 100, then action will be only activate once router 2 will be down or they will be at a different state. So there will be action, there will be sequence statement that I am going to use to make the requirement as asked in the question. Okay, so below next step, as you can see here now, so by default, as I said, the overlay fabric load share the traffic all across the equal path. So we are going to do this by creating the inbound centralized policy that matches the TLock originated by the hub vEdge and modify the TLock preference value. So as I said, what we are going to do now, we will modify the preference value of each edge devices to preferred vEdge2 as the compared to vEdge1. Now the TLock coming from vEdge1 will be modified to have a less TLock preference than of vEdge2. As I said, we will put the vEdge preference value of R1 as 100 and R2 as 200. Note that the modification of this control plane information will take place before the TLock routes are inserted into the vsmart TLock table. Steps are below. So what we are going to know, we have to create a new centralized policy using the GUI. So we log into vmanage GUI and we'll go to configuration policies, and from the drop menu at the top right hand side at the corner there's a topology option. When you click on topology, it will open a box for you and there select add a topology. From the add topology another box will open and from there select custom control routes and TLock. Okay, and once you click on that, it will open another box for you where you need to enter the name and description as per your policy name that you want to give and what you want to achieve. And then once you enter the name and the description of your policy, then you click on the select sequence, and the sequence select the TLock. Now then we are going to match the TLock routes from coming from vEdge1 by specifying the system IP, that is the router ID of vEdge1 as originator. Okay, then we go to the action tab. So what action tab and specify the action to accept. After that we select the preference value for vEdge1 which should be less than the vEdge2. Okay, so this explanation is clearly, these steps are clearly saying the same thing which I said on the by this diagram. So what we are doing here, we are on this router 1, we are setting up the less preference value compared to router 2, and we are telling doing all these things on the basis of centralized policy that we are creating. Okay, so the next step will be, so at this point we have created a TLog sequence that match the TLog of vEdge1 by using the originator value. Then we accept this TLog. Now the same thing we have to perform for the TLog2 of vEdge2, but this time we are going to specify the higher TLog preference value in order to make all WAN edge router prefer vEdge2 as an entry point for the hub site. Okay, so same sequence we are, the way we did for the TLog1 or the edge1, the same sequence we are going to perform for the vEdge2. The only difference that on vEdge2 we have given the higher preference value compared to the vEdge1. Okay, so once you done with the sequence, once we are accept what we are to do, then we go back to configuration, policies, and activate. That's very important, guys, that you have to activate the policy that you have created. If you will not activate the policy that you have created, then whatever action that you have took before the activation, it will not implement on by the vSmart. Okay, so once you're done with that, you will be able to make make one of the edge device of hub router as a preferred device. Now, next question is how to create a hub and spoke topology in SD-WAN. That's very common and very easy approach in SD-WAN. As I already told you what exactly the hub and spoke is all about. So hub and spoke topology using where data center will be part of hub and all branch will be part of spoke sites. This can be done by creating centralized policy by going to vmanage, click on the configuration, policies, centralized policy. From inside the centralized policy wizard, we need to create two lists that will be used to match the hub and the spoke site list. So for example, there's a I have this data center, and this is another data center that I have, and then I have multiple spoke sites. Okay, now in SD-WAN what we happen that which each site will give the site ID name. Okay, so for these two are the hub site, for example site 1 and site 2, I will create a list, and under hub I will type site 1, and site 2 will be part of hub, and site 2, site 3, site 4, and so on will part of spoke. So I'll be creating two lists. One list is called the hub list, where I'll be giving the all the site ID number, and another list I will be creating spoke list, where I'll be giving the all the site ID number like 2, 3, and 4, and so on. So in this way, your SD-WAN fabric will understand this is the hub site ID and these are the spoke site ID, and how the communication will take place. So list a very simple construct that are used to match specific value. In Cisco SD-WAN, list work the same way as they do in traditional networking, where we use access list and prefix list to match specific routes, and they specify the action or in another construct called a route map. So in centralized policy wizard, as a simple approach, go to add a policy, sites, click on new site list and add site ID. With this you can able to create the site list with the hub and spoke, and accordingly when data center site ID will be hub and branch will be spoke. And after clicking next, the wizard will move to the next page called configure topology and VPN membership, and here in the drop box you will select the hub and spoke topology. Once you select the hub and spoke topology, it automatically will start creating the according to your hub list and the spoke list that you have created. That's all, guys, and it's very simple to use and simple to create that. Thanks, and hope you guys enjoys. And if you want to be more advanced session on that, and very soon I will be coming with the deployment of SD-WAN. Thank you. Do subscribe my channel. Thank you.